never meant to cause you any sorrow. I never meant to cause you any pain.
I can't really hear it.
I only wanted one time to see you laughing.
It's pretty light.
I only want to see you laughing in the
Coming through here. Clear.
Oh, got it. Now I hear it. Okay. Somebody do an acoustic version of Purple Rain.
Yeah, so this is actually Puddle's Pity Party.
Oh, okay.
He is an incredibly tall clown who did
Does
some
sad
HGTV.
songs.
And he is I don't know the whole background or shtick of it, but I saw him performing on the road with like a dual headliner sort of deal with Piff the Magic Dragon. And
Yeah.
the
Piff
indication,
and Puddles Party.
yeah, the indication that I got from the act is that he is silent until the music starts. He does not speak, I don't think, and please, somebody listening, correct me on this that might know the background better than I do, because I'm nowhere near an expert. I have seen him once and kind of got the feel, but he can sing and will sing. And but the pure no music in the background speaking does not appear to happen. So yeah, he and Piff are on an occasional, let's call it, nomadic journey, because they are touring all over the place together right now.
That's really awesome. I'm always bummed that I don't live the kind of lifestyle that allows me to follow folks around the country and see a show, you know, in a location that I want to visit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh man, they're going to be here. I want to see that town and I want to go see that show. Let me get tickets, fly over, check out the town and see the show. I wish I did that kind of lifestyle. I do not.
I like it. I occasionally do it. In fact, we have a guest here today who joined me on a somewhat of a journey like that a couple months ago. I went to see, and there's a long story behind the shenanigans that ended up having my friend here invited on this particular trip, because this was supposed to be my, at the time, 14-year-old daughter and I and a friend. I'll tell you, as far as being a parent's concerned, when they get to that age that they can approach you and say, hey, Dad, Rage Against the Machine is on tour. Can you take me? I'm like, oh, shit, did this just get good? It finally, after all of these years of investment, the dividend has started to pay.
Finally, the reason I had a child.
Yes, her
come to fruition.
Without getting too deep into the weeds, her mother, my ex, kind of screwed up her ability to go on this particular trip because of another vacation that they had planned. And I was like, bro, I got to do something with these tickets. It was in Pittsburgh. He's got ties to Pittsburgh, and he's like, let's just go on a road trip and check this out. So we did. So
well, let's not keep the listeners in suspense. Introduce your guest, man.
So this is a person who you guys, I think I've mentioned this before, and welcome to the world of podcasting where we talk about so much shit, but we don't know what we've talked about on the air. But, you know, this is obviously Big Sexy Digital Nomad. We are currently prepping up for Big Sexy to leave the country and go all over the place. And
we should also probably introduce ourselves. This is our podcast. This may be somebody's first podcast. So hello, listeners. I'm Big Sexy.
And I am the Almost Psychic. And we are joined with somebody who has done some nomading of his own. My friend Justin, who on, I think, social media, you are linked in there. People want to find you is what? Beer in a backpack?
You're in a backpack. It's pretty much on hiatus right now, but hopefully that's going to be changing in about 3 months.
Awesome, so Justin, pleasure to meet you. You and I have never met before.
Nice to meet you as well, Big Sexy.
This is going to be fun.
So you I mean, let's kind of talk about the past first, and then if we've got time, we'll talk about the future. And if we don't have time, we'll just do this again and talk about the future on another episode. You've done it, right? You have sold all your shit and ran off into the world and experienced it. So give us a little rundown of what that looks like.
All right, so little background. So back in 2015, I was wrapping up grad school and decided that I wanted to go on an adventure. And
What did you study? What were you studying in grad school?
I got my MBA in marketing.
Okay.
So wanted to do something big after working full time and suffering through part-time grad school. So a buddy of mine, we went on a 3-week overland tour through Southern Africa. And it was incredible. It opened my eyes to essentially a whole new world. I'd always wanted to travel before and I never had. This was literally my first international trip outside of, crossing the border into Canada, which doesn't count. It's just, American North. So that went phenomenal. It really got me excited about wildlife photography and, experiencing other cultures and just the adventure of being places where, I don't look like everybody, I don't speak the language, and I'm experiencing things that I've never seen before. So that kind of spurred me on to my next international trip, which was a 10-day road trip through Scotland. So I am very much a scotch drinker. So I had the opportunity to rent a car and drive around the country. Took a ferry over to Isla where they make Lagavulin. If you're a Parks and Rec fan, that's Ron Swanson's favorite.
Ron Swanson's favorite drink, yes.
That's his favorite. It also happens to be mine, courtesy.
Don't we have a few bottles of that branded Ron Swanson?
We do. You've actually got me some.
Yeah, so Justin and I consider myself, I guess, more of a collector than you of, I don't want to say obscure. That's not really the right word, but just
unique.
If it is a whiskey or a scotch, especially if it's in a cool bottle, if it's got a unique name to it, I will fucking buy it. And most of this is on shelves. Well, no, actually, with the move, most of this is in boxes right now. But a week from now, it still won't be on shelves because the room that the bar is going to be in the new house won't have walls for a couple of weeks. But well, it's got walls.
In a few months' time,
they will all be back out on display, and the collecting will continue again. And it's cool because I've developed a relationship with a local liquor store owner who just finds shit and kind of has gotten an idea of the stuff I'm looking for, the stuff that he's looking for. He just, you've met him, but there was a long time where it was just like, I have a friend who's into, this kind of subsection of scotch, and he would just find rare shit, and it was cool. So yeah, Lagavulin.
Yeah. How much scotch did you experience in Scotland?
I kept track. I tasted 50 different expressions while I was there.
Ooh, yes.
So
cheers.
We would stop at, stayed in hotels or actually castle style hotels twice, and would just go down to the bar and be like, all right, let's try this, this, and this. Also did, when we went to Isla, I did tours of Lagavulin, Lafroig, and Ardbeg. So I'm big into the peaty, smoky stuff that, most people associate when they think of scotch. Even though that's only a small percentage of what scotch actually is. And so I got to go to the places that made all the stuff that I really enjoy drinking, and I got to taste enormously older scotches than I would be able to personally afford. And, you're tasting a 34-year-old Lagavulin. They take a stick and put it into a 50-year-old barrel and then rub it on your hand. And I would literally lick my hand to taste it and then rub the rest into my beard to make sure that I got every little milliliter to go home with me. No, it was a great trip. Scotland is one of the most beautiful places on the planet. I would live there in a heartbeat if A, it weren't so expensive, and B, the weather didn't suck so bad.
Yeah, that was a big factor in us leaving, or not just us leaving, but us finding certain locales to go to was the weather
Mhm.
aspect of it. Because both my wife and I are very much anti-winter, and as much as I love a lot of the European countries, ideally, because I haven't been to very many, uh, I if you get too far below, that's not someplace we gonna go.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, I tend to try to make my travel based on climate because I don't do well with really hot and humid, which is funny considering where I've grown up and live now. But so after the Africa tour and the Scotland road trip, um, I kind of decided that I um, wanted to travel more. And with the job that I was working, you only get a few weeks of vacation every year, and I have all these big adventures that I want to do. I'm big into hiking, and I want the ability to go on, big mountain adventures. And you can't necessarily do that when you've only got a little bit of time. And um, so when my job was kind of at a point where I wasn't able to improve the quality of life for my employees. I was working as an operations manager and clashed really hard with our sales exec. And I was kind of burnt out. I was kind of over it and going through um, the election season with all the ridiculousness that was going on at that point in 2015,
Ooh.
leading into 2016.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I was over it, and I was like, I just want to do something different. I want to change the direction of my life. And so I talked to my friend who was my realtor and said, if I sold my house, do you think I can make some money? He's like, absolutely. We're in a good position right here. I said, all right, let's do this. So we put my house on the market. It sold in 24 hours.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
that's a
The
quick
first
sale.
the first person that walked through made an offer. We countered. She accepted it, and I think I accepted the offer while I was out hiking in Colorado at the time. So it's like I'm on my I'm out in the mountains on a road trip through we were doing a Utah. We started in Colorado and we're doing a road trip through all 5 national parks in Utah.
Nice.
So my buddy's messaging me. He's like, yeah, this is coming back. We got to do this. And I'm like, all right, man, let's pick the closing date as soon as possible. And that was the green light for me to be able to go travel around the world. So at that point, I put my put my stuff in storage at my mother's house, sold my car, and I crashed on my buddy's couch for a couple months until I was ready to hit the road.
That's
And
amazing.
I'm very much a travel planning nerd. So I spent a lot of time making spreadsheets and looking up pretty much everything you could possibly think of when it comes to traveling. And I started thinking I should volunteer somewhere. I've never done that. That could be
Right.
interesting. So I started Googling just various volunteer projects. And I realized I'm like, whoa, there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do
A
for
lot of
not a
cool
lot of
places.
for not a lot of money in a lot of cool places and stuff that I would never just do on my own because, I'm very much an introvert. So my travels are typically, not me walking around making friends. So having
Right.
the opportunity to volunteer with other people
You need your
makes it easier.
wingman for that, right?
And speaking of greatest wingman that I've ever known, and so I started looking at that, and I literally planned out every week for 2 years of where I was going to go.
Oh
But I
wow.
knew, but I knew that was going to go off the rails. It
Right.
was,
As
it was
things do.
I'm going to do this. Like I booked a couple volunteer programs and like the first few months, and from there I had a big hike planned out. But other than that, I hadn't booked anything. It was just kind of all in a spreadsheet. I'm like, this is how I want to kind of do it. It'll help me with my budget because I have a set amount of money, a whole bunch of places I want to go, and I don't know how long it's going to last. So at the beginning of January 2017, I hopped on a plane from Pittsburgh to Costa Rica and had a layover in Fort Lauderdale. I got off the plane and was heading to my hotel or hostel, whatever it was, and checked in, walked down to the pier, standing on the pier, and I get a message from a friend of mine. Hey man, did you get evacuated okay? What are you talking about? There was a shooting in the airport like an hour or two after I'd left.
Holy shit.
So this is how I started my around the world, by leaving the US with a shooting at the air, or I don't know if it was a shooting or if it was just somebody had a gun pulled, but I believe it was a shooting.
Which airport was
Fort
that?
Lauderdale.
In Fort Lauderdale.
I believe so, yeah. So I'm on the phone with JetBlue and Chase, my bank, because I think I booked my flight through them, trying to find out if they're going to reopen the airport, because I don't know.
Oh, because you had an extended layover in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, I was staying overnight.
Oh wow, okay, gotcha.
So I was supposed to be flying to Costa Rica the next morning, and so that doesn't work out. Like I end up canceling my flight, rebooking a flight out of Miami. So I have to hop in an Uber and basically drive across town to check into another hotel just outside the Miami airport. And I'm trying to get a hold of my volunteer contacts in Costa Rica, because I'm about to spend 3 months at a wildlife rescue volunteer project. And so I end up in this dumpy hotel across the street and from the airport, and there happens to be a Honduran restaurant next door. I'm like, well, let's go try some Honduran food. I'm like, oh, there, but why not?
Like you do.
Went in, ordered like half the menu, ate about half of it, because you can only put so much in you. And also there were beers, obviously.
Right.
And so the next day I finally get on the plane and fly down to Costa Rica, and I meet the volunteer coordinator, and she's waiting for me, and we have another volunteer that we're waiting for, but the person never shows up. She can't leave. We're just sitting there. We literally sat outside the airport, like where all the taxis come.
Right.
For, there's tons of people just sitting around out there. There's, folks with the signs up for, whoever they're picking up. And we sat there for probably 2 or 3 hours. And then finally she just like pulled a cab aside and told him where I needed to go. She gave me some information on a piece of paper, gave me some walk around cash. And it was like, you're going to go to this bus station. You're going to wait there. You're going to get on the bus at 5 o'clock. And then it's going to take you to Jaco, which is the beach town on the Pacific coast.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, I speak very little Spanish. And so I end up sitting in this bus station. I think the entirety of what I ate that day was like 2 donuts and a Coca-Cola. So I'm riding the struggle
Breakfast of
bus
travelers
and just hanging out the bus station. And then I finally get on, like one of the security guards had talked, or what the driver had talked to the security guard to tell her to help me get on my bus, which was great. Like I'm already, very happy with the folks in Costa Rica being super friendly and helpful, which is standard protocol for Costa Rica, for Ticos and Ticos. And so I get on this bus and it's like, it's a party on wheels. Like I get on and it's like 90s hip hop, lights, and I'm just living my best life. I grew up on 90s hip hop, and it's like they're playing like Biggie and other stuff. I'm like, what is happening? I love this. Nice. And so, they told the bus driver when I got on that I needed to get off at this apartment complex outside of Jaco. It's like 1.5 miles to 2 miles outside of the actual town. Well, I'm watching on my phone where we're at, and I see we're coming up on Jaco, and I'm like, where do I get off here? And he's just like, oh no. He's like, I already drove past it. He's like, you go down to that cab stand, you'll get a taxi there and he'll take you.
Love it.
Oh no.
So I'm there and it's pitch black out at this point. By now it's close to like, I don't know, 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And I dramatically overpacked. I can't express that enough. And I'll get into that later. But so I walked to this cab stand, and if you're not familiar with Hako, Hako is very well known in Costa Rica as a place where especially Americans go for a specific type of tourism.
Is this like a?
Are you talking about paying for it?
It is very much a paying for it kind of town.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So apparently on weekend,
Think Pahrump.
a whole bunch of ladies of the night will, hop onto buses and make their way to Hako because there's a whole lot of old white expats that live
with
there,
money in their pocket,
with money in their pocket, and a little bottle of blue pills to keep them going.
Right.
So I plopped down at the cab stand, and immediately 4 girls walk by, and I'm like, okay. Apparently,
now were you aware at this time of the lore of the land, or did you learn it contemporaneous to all of this happening?
As I mentioned before, I am very much a research nerd, so I did come across some.
You read the reviews
comments
and the
about
articles.
I definitely saw some articles, some blog posts.
TripAdvisor, did you write?
So how many girls did you purchase before you made it to the hotel?
0. I'm too cheap, and I'm not one to pay for it. I can't get them with my charm and my dashing good looks. No. So I'm waiting for. Actually, it was a bus stop, not a cab stand. I'm waiting for the bus, and this guy comes out, and he's like, "Do you need a ride?" And I'm like, "Yes." I'm like, "I need to go here." And I'm like, "How much?" And he told me, and I'm like, "Okay, I've got enough. Here you go." So I hop in this car with this random guy, and he just, I give him the phone. So he has to call the volunteer coordinator, whose phone number he had, to get the phone number of the woman that my host mother, who I'm supposed to be staying with. So
wow.
He's on the phone.
Have they been trying to reach you since?
No, they didn't have my number either, because I was originally supposed to stay with a young guy in town, but he was he had to go out of town for some reason. So they moved.
He had to go to Haka.
He was in Haka. He lived in Haka. I was supposed to be living right there, but instead I got moved to this middle-aged woman to stay at her place. And so this guy is just hauling ass down these back roads, and I'm like, I don't know how it took so long to get where we were going, because I did the walk into town, and I feel like the drive took longer than the walks did. And he's just hauling balls on the phone, trying to figure out, how to get a hold of this woman. And then finally pulls up to the apartment complex. It's literally on the side of the highway. And I hop out, and she's standing there with her dog, whose name was Sexy.
Nice.
Sexy. So I meet this woman
everywhere.
So I meet this woman, Gretel, who is just sweet as can be, doesn't have the greatest English. And we walk back to where her place is, and it's her and her sister, Ingrid. So I go from anticipating staying with a young guy who was like a waiter to these 2 middle-aged women that spoke very little English, and my Spanish being even worse than their English. And
Did they speak German?
No, I don't think so. But I did.
Ingrid and Gretel.
Right. The funny thing was so the place that I volunteered at there was a wildlife rescue, and I use that term very loosely because it was basically a tourist trap. So after about 5 weeks of me getting very annoyed with the owner, and then the last straw was they had this guy showed up at like 8 a.m. just completely drunk off his ass and still drinking. Tourists are showing up for tours. Like I'd been helping lead English speaking tours for weeks. And just the way they handled things, I wasn't happy with it. So I talked to the head of the NGO that I worked with, and I was like, I need to get moved. Like this sucks. I came here to help animals, and this is not right. So ended up moving me to a place up in the mountains, and I went from being the only volunteer at this place to one of 18 at the next place.
All right, a little bit bigger community, nice.
So made some good friends there, which is funny because when I'd come back to the ladies' place one day. They also taught Spanish lessons, and I'm walking in because I would walk to the volunteer place, and there's these two pretty German girls in there with lessons. Well, what do you know?
Were they also named Ingrid and Gretel?
No, they were not. They had way more American sounding names. So I was like, oh,
it'd have been really, really funny if they had much more Spanish sounding names.
Right. one was Sophia.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
Sophia and Medibel.
It's funny because I got to the next place and I'm volunteering there. I was there for probably a week or so. And like, it got to the point where like I was helping onboard the new people. I was one of the older volunteers. There were some that were even older than me, but most, I was 35 at the time, and most kids volunteering are 18 to 25.
Right.
I think so. I was one of the old guys. But what do you know? The two girls that were getting Spanish lessons showed up and volunteered at the new place that I was at for several weeks, and we all became good friends.
Awesome.
I actually ended up meeting up with them for a day, hanging out in Germany when I was there. So, yeah, Costa Rica was awesome. Way too hot for me. When I left, it was 8 degrees with 4 inches of snow on the car. When I arrived, it was 95 with like 80% humidity.
Oh, wow.
So that took a little bit to get used to that. And my blood is like scotch to mosquitoes. So I got eaten alive in Costa Rica. But yeah, I was there for 3 months, and then I headed off to Europe, where I did 2 more months of volunteering in Spain.
Whereabouts in Spain were you stationed?
I was in Valencia.
Okay.
Valencia would be my number one choice of places to live if I could live anywhere. And I'm hoping to make that happen someday. But it's perfect weather. People are great. Food's great. City's gorgeous. Great.
Look, I've told you this numerous times. Buy a building. Find a building. Find a building that can be converted into a hostel, or find a hostel that's for sale, and then you run it.
Mm-hmm.
And I come visit sometimes.
There you go. Fair enough.
We'll pop over. We'll be in Portugal. We'll just hop over and say hey.
All right.
So how many total countries?
So on that trip, it was 40. So I'm up to a total of 46.
Oh, nice. That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. I'm hoping to experience that kind of worldview as we move forward. Because like you said, prior to my wedding and honeymoon, I had only been to America South and America North. Right. I had never ventured off the mainland except to go to Hawaii or twice. For the honeymoon, we took a cruise. We took an Italian cruise. So we flew out to Italy and then cruised Italy and Greece. So I got to experience Europe and this whole, Mediterranean and international viewpoint. I loved it. I went, I could do this. I could see myself trying to make a life of this. Then the wife hit me with, let's move to Portugal. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And so we're going to start that journey. Pretty cool. But I did want to back up, Justin. You mentioned that you grew up in hot and weather. Where did you grow up?
Western Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So when I say hot and humid, I guess it's more
the humid part.
Yeah, more the humid. So I'm from Northwest PA. Spent a lot of time living in Pittsburgh as an adult, in the DC area now.
Legally an adult.
Legally an adult, yeah. Mentally not so.
How did you and Joe Beth meet? How are you guys acquainted?
We I walked into the lounge and he's sitting there with his shirt off and his flame tattoos just blazing, and I'm like, who the hell is this guy? Yeah,
so we met in undergrad, and you were what, a year behind me in school?
Yeah.
And were you pledging the fraternity at the time that we met?
Yes.
So
I got yelled at for not introducing myself to you.
Yeah, fast forwarded all through that. We were members of the same fraternity in undergrad, and let's just say, and I'm sure that we'll end up getting into some of the details of my history as this podcast continues. My undergrad experience was not the same as my law school experience. I started a 4-year law school program that I finished up in 3, and I took the extended route through the undergrad experience. So I went for a year, and then I took a semester off before coming back. So I was up there visiting for a weekend, and I believe I had just gotten these hot rod flame tattoos on my stomach at the time. So I was sitting around without a shirt on, which was not abnormal for me and my personality at the time anyway.
Standard protocol.
To be half undressed, but having healing tattoos that have, vitamin A and D on just gives you more of an excuse. And I'm just chilling, and he walks in, and it's just like, who's this fucking dude with these tattoos?
Yep. Just completely sprawled out on the couch, arms out, stomach just blazing.
Literally,
exactly. And yeah, it was weird because I'm not even sure how the friendship developed. And fast forward many years later, and I'm given a half drunken best man speech at his first wedding.
nice, awesome. Well, I'm pretty sure it grew like most friendships grew. Social events, gathering, maybe a couple of thigh rubs, just here and there. And lots and lots of drinking outages, sharing bottles of delicious scotch and exquisite whiskey and beers galore. But that's awesome. Now, you mentioned the job that you left with. That was was it marketing? A marketing job you had before you left?
No, operations management.
Operations management. Right. So where are you now? What are you doing now?
Now I am working for a government company.
Oh, I think we lost him. Maybe I'm the one with the bad connection.
Oh yeah, he's completely frozen, isn't he?
Oh, I'm back now.
Oh, you're back.
Party on.
Well, unmute yourself.
Who, me?
Yeah, there you go.
You're muted.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm back. Sorry about that. Technical glitch.
No worries. Hopefully the recording was so happy, because Justin and I were having a lovely conversation while you were.
Fortunately, I know the answer to the question that you asked him. So I didn't hear the answer, but I know the answer.
So yeah, working as a management consultant for NOAA right now.
And you have finagled things that at some point in the near future, you're going to be able to maintain that job and dip the fuck out.
Yeah. So that is last year around Christmas time, my boss asked me, what do you want in your career? And I told him, honestly, I want to get back to traveling. I want to be nomadic. But I realized that that's probably not possible, supporting the government. And he said, anything's possible. I was like, you serious? I said, yeah. He's like, I wouldn't do it for someone who was, brand new, but you've proven yourself, and, let's see where it goes.
And to be fair, obviously the world is changing a lot, and the way that we work is changing a lot. And you took this job sometime in the midst of, it wasn't lockdown, but it was like coming right out of that first lockdown, correct? In COVID?
It was August 2020.
So yeah, like right in that mix. So
that's in lockdown. Yeah, that lockdown has
been
been going on for about 5 months at that point.
Yeah. So you were working virtually from day one.
I've only been in the office 3 times just to kind of hang out with, a couple of my coworkers and my boss, and that's it. And so I just, a few months ago, I brought it back up and I said, is this really something that we can make happen? And there was an internal job that opened up on the IT team, and I'd been working on an internal project with the CTO and the director of IT. I'm not a technical person, but some of the stuff that I've been doing fit very well with it. They've really enjoyed working with me. So they were looking at that as a possibility. Unfortunately, it wasn't because of I would have had to have had admin privileges and access to all the company data. That's not okay from abroad. So that got cut down. And I really thought that was the end of it. And he's like, no, I talked to the client, and they both, the two people that would need to approve it, both approved it verbally.
Oh, nice.
So I'm like, wait, you're telling me that I can keep the job that I really enjoy doing, supporting a program that I believe in with people that I genuinely enjoy working with, and y'all gonna keep paying me, and have the ability to do this from abroad? And he said, yeah. So unfortunately, paperwork takes forever.
It does.
It's been bouncing around for 2 months now, and just waiting.
Where do you want to go?
The plan right now is, assuming this paperwork gets signed, my lease ends at the end of January, at which point all my stuff will be put in a storage unit. I'll drop my car off at my mother's place, and I'll primarily spend my time in Mexico, Central, South America, and the Caribbean. I'm going to stay within a couple time zones to start with. The one thing that he requested though was that I come back once a quarter. So right. I'm gonna try and stretch that as much as I can, but
right.
I'll figure I'll be all right with that.
I mean, technically once a quarter, if you pop in the first day of the first quarter and the last day of the second quarter.
Hey, that's 2 quarters knocked out there. I did some math.
You are exactly in the same mindset that I am.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are the days? Because I'm gonna do 2 and 3 back to back.
Yeah.
And then you won't see me again till the end of 4.
And listen, make it look good. You go in the last day of quarter 2
mm-hmm.
and the second day of quarter 3. You put a gap between the two.
Yeah,
it's not like I just gap. So I didn't just take advantage of this system and come in here 2 back-to-back days. There was a day in between them.
Right.
I gave a 24-hour break on my face.
I mean, that would be, even that, you would be going into the office more frequently than you have for the past 2 years.
Exactly.
So not that much of a stretch. So for somebody who's done this digital nomad thing and is popping back into that world, is there how do I want to ask this? Because there's like so many different ways I could ask this question. Is there something that you did the first time that, knowing that you're going to embark on this type of journey again, that you'd change, do differently, make sure you did or did not take with you, something like that? Like, what's a tip? But to help people out here.
You kind of alluded to this earlier, is overpacking is quite possibly the worst thing that I did to start with. I had a 60-liter pack and a 35-liter pack when I went. So I was.
This is for clothes and shit, right? Not scotch.
Yeah, no scotch. I sent home probably 40 pounds worth of gear from Florida, Croatia, and Germany. I downsized bags in Germany because when I flew there, my best friend from high school was stationed in Kaiserslautern, which is near Ramstein, on the army base there. And so I had ordered a new bag from REI, had it shipped to him, which when you send to a military base, it ships just like it's going down the street here.
Right.
So I was able to get a new bag, and then I just left my big bag and
at the same prices.
Yeah, exactly.
I learned a valuable lesson. I don't know if I want to disclose this because the recipient of a gift that I sent recently might listen to this podcast, but I shipped 4 decks of playing cards to Scotland, and I'm not going to put numbers out there, but the shipping cost was more than the cost of the fucking cards.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because it's just international. Yeah, like the pricing is.
Did you send those cards to our friend who's a collector of
Yes.
decks of cards?
Yeah. Brogan. Hello, Brogan. And a shout out to Hey Buddy Nice Podcast, which I think would jive well for anybody who's listening to our podcast for the international and travel elements. Go listen to some accents, because Brogan's from Scotland and Wayne is from Australia, and you get the full-on accent from each of them. And they do this bit near the end of every episode, or most episodes, where they then do these accent challenges where people will write in and say, hey, give me your best this accent to say this thing. And it's a lot of fun. But yeah, Brogan had posted having gone to a magic shop
in the UK or London.
Yeah, in London,
England, or wherever she was.
This big rack of different playing cards and everything, like a display case. And I was like, ooh, I've got some shit that I want to add to that collection for you, because I back a lot of Kickstarters, and a lot of the Kickstarters I back have something to do with, they either are for a unique deck of playing cards, or one of the things that they give you as a reward at certain levels is a deck of playing cards. And when I buy them, I'm buying at least at the very minimum, I'm buying what is called a half a brick or 6 decks. So, and more often than not, I don't even open these. Like, I collect them myself. So I was just like, ooh, I got some shit that I want to send you, because tearing off 1 out of 6 or 12 is no big deal. And to help somebody's collection grow, I was like, this is perfect.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna send Brogan a couple of decks that I have. There's nothing too special about them, except they're from the Stratosphere and from Texas Station.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so the Stratosphere is rebranded now as the Strat. So these deck of cards are collector items, and then the Texas Station is getting demolished. So those decks of cards are collector's items. It was really cool during my garage. So we had a garage sale to sell all of our shit, because again, we're moving out of the country. It's funny, our lease is also up at the end of January. Nice. So when you said that round, oh, that's amazing. We're both going to start this journey kind of at the same time. Yeah. We had a garage sale to begin selling all our shit. We sold a good portion, not a lot, but a good portion. And so as a thank you gift just for showing up, people got a free deck of Stratosphere cards. Nice. Because I had bricks and bricks and bricks of these damn cards, and I got to get rid of everything. And you're obviously not going to sell those many decks of cards. So I'm on free gifts. Done. And then if you bought something, you got a couple free decks of the Texas Station, because of those are collector items. I'm out here, play with the Stratosphere, hang on to the Texas Station, because those may be worth something in the future. Now, are these brand new decks of cards, or are they the canceled ones that you got from that stint in the state pen? They're the canceled decks that we get that I acquired. I don't smoke, so I had to deal with decks and decks of playing cards. And man, I got used a lot, so I got a lot of decks. No, we hosted a family reunion at Texas Station, but when it was open back in 2016, I believe. Might be 2018. No, 2016. And as a gift, they gave us, a bunches of playing decks. And then I used to work at the Stratosphere. And so when we're doing that, I asked for the Stratosphere if they had any free decks of cards, and they said, "Oh yeah, here's a box of them." And I thought it would just be one brick. No, they gave me a box of bricks, and I was like, "Oh, shit! There's a lot of these. Okay, cool." And I still have. I've been giving them away all the time, and I still have maybe 3 or 4 bricks left to give away before we leave the country. I'll nab some of those from you when I'm out there. All right, cool deal. Hey, maybe we give them away as well when we do the little get together that we're talking about doing. Yeah, I'll maybe autograph a few of them and be like, hey, autograph the outside. Yeah, here's a deck of cards. Enjoy. Thank you for coming. Now, Justin, what was your favorite thing about that nomad life, like traveling from place to place? Yeah, what was your favorite part about
The freedom, the ability to just go where I wanted to go and do what I wanted to do and not have the responsibility of having to be in a specific place at any one given time. Obviously, that's going to be a little bit different traveling with a full-time job. So I'm not going to be able to go to a lot of the more remote areas that I would, find exciting. I'm going to have to stay in places that have more of an infrastructure, more of a steady infrastructure, as good as you can hope for. Because a lot of my travel is going to be to, more developing or partially developed countries. My goal is really to pay off those grad school loans through this. That's been one of the big motivating factors to make this a thing. And with having a good job and the ability to go to places where I'm going to pay a lot less in renting an Airbnb than I do for my apartment in DC.
Right.
That's
because you're making okay money for somebody living in DC, but when you get to other countries where things don't cost what they cost here,
you're wealthy.
You're going to
really
be a king.
good money. Yeah.
So
And
we're
all
going to
that
experience
stuff
some.
that debt real fast.
Yeah, we're going to experience the same thing. Wife is a marriage and family therapist who can do what she does anywhere around the world.
Nice.
Her clients just have to be wherever she's licensed. So she's going to get a couple more licenses in different places in the States.
Nice.
And then that gives us the freedom to go wherever. I will be able to quit my job and not have to work, which means I can access gig economy with my passions.
You're going to be on that bus working it.
Yeah, you're damn right. I'm going to make my way down to Hoka and earn me some cash. Got my location's about to be legit. I'm gonna get so many decks of cards, so many. I'm gonna get so used. It's gonna be amazing. I'm looking forward to the freedom. Now, what was one thing that you hated about it? Was there anything that you're like, that part sucked, other than the overpacking? Because that was just error in judgment. But like as you were experiencing the trip, was there anything that you're like, I don't want to do that again?
I would say the biggest struggle for me in most places was just the language barrier. Not having grown up in America, we only speak one language, most of us at least, and it's frustrating to be in a place where you can't speak the language, you can't read the words or the alphabet. It's very challenging. So I've been trying to brush up on my Spanish on Duolingo for my trip south of the border. But I spent 5 months traveling. I met another American guy in a hostel in Morocco, and we became friends. We ended up traveling together for about 5 months. He's actually become one of my best friends here in DC because he's from this general area. But he spoke a passable amount of Russian from the time that he spent in the army. So we met up and traveled through Central Asia together. Nice. So we went to Georgia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, where else? Azerbaijan, and then eventually Sri Lanka. But like for those first few months in Georgia and the stands, they speak their local languages, but also a lot of them speak Russian. And so he was able to communicate with people. And for like 3 months, I basically couldn't speak to anybody because very, very few people in that area were speaking English. And that was rough. I mean, they were gorgeous countries.
Right.
We spent 2 months in Georgia in a little Airbnb that was overlooking a river in Tbilisi, and then like a week in Azerbaijan or in Baku, which is probably the cleanest city I've ever seen. Like it was spotless. There was an F1 race in town that week, so everything was clean as could be. It was
right.
Beautiful. Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan. If I could speak Russian or any local languages, I would live there in a heartbeat. That's some of the most beautiful mountainous country I've ever seen. It is spectacular. The Tian Shan are gorgeous mountains. I had probably the greatest day of my life in Kyrgyzstan. So we went to
Oh yeah,
visit.
I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, please tell that story. I want to hear about the greatest day in your life.
I mean, may not sound exciting, but it's just kind of one of those experiences where you meet some people and it just restores your faith in humanity. So me and my buddy, we hopped in a taxi and we went out to this place called I think it's called the Seven Bulls. It's this big red rock formation, really cool looking. So we're out there, we're taking some pictures. We climb up on this big hillside that kind of overlooks it, and then there's this dirt road that goes back through all these fields, and we're like, screw it, gorgeous day, let's go for a walk and see what we can see. Heading back towards the mountains. So we're strolling back, and there's fields on both sides. There's every livestock animal you could think of grazing: horses, cows, sheep, goats, and they're just roaming around everywhere. There's no fences or anything, just this road and fields and mountains off in the distance. We walk past a yurt, and then we come up on this farmhouse, and there's a family there, and they are literally butchering a sheep as we walk by. And we wave at them, they wave at us. And we keep going, and we walk up the hillside, and we just kind of plop down, and we're watching these cows graze. Like the weather's perfect, and we're just enjoying it. And so a little bit of time passes, and we're like, all right. And we start walking back, and the family's there, and they flag us down. And he can speak a little bit of Russian to him, and basically what we understand is, hey, would you like some tea? And he's like, yeah, sure. So we're standing there, and assuming they're going to bring out some tea, and then so it's like a grandfather and his wife, their son, and their son's kid, and I think that was it. And they are like boiling some of the sheep. Ooh. They're smoking some of the meat. They are really using a like old school torch to torch the skull and the hooves, like to remove all the hair and whatnot.
Oh wow.
So this is just like, this is all happening. I'm okay, I've never seen this before.
That's what they do.
And then they asked my buddy if he wanted to ride the horse, and that was one of the things that he wanted to do while we were there. So he got to go trotting around on a horse up in these fields up in the mountains. And I'm sitting there playing with this little lamb that has a bum leg that they have tied up so that it doesn't hurt itself. And the kids are running around having the best time. And it's strange. It's hard to explain. You're standing there, I can't really communicate, because I don't speak any Russian.
Right.
And about an hour and a half goes by, and we still haven't had tea. And so we're kind of like, okay, we should probably get going. And then they're like, come inside. He motions for us to come inside. And their house is literally just a one-room house with a little like entryway. And in the entryway, he takes his rifle off the wall and hands it to us to like show us his rifle. We're just like, okay, that's cool. My buddy was in the Army, and I grew up, in a hunting family. So, we're not scared or anything. We grew up in America. We're not afraid of somebody handing us a gun. We're afraid of someone pointing it at us.
Right.
So, and then what happens is they made lunch. They literally made the sheep's liver that they had just butchered a couple hours earlier for lunch. And they had this huge spread laid out on this little tiny table. They've got all like these little treats and everything. They had mare's milk tea, so horse milk in the tea.
Oh wow.
So we had fresh butchered sheep liver and onions. And it's just like the family's just all sitting there. They just invited us in out of the middle of nowhere. Two random white dudes walking down the dirt road.
And where was this at again?
This was in rural Kyrgyzstan.
Rural Kyrgyzstan.
Yeah, which I believe is south of Afghanistan. Let me look at my map here. No, it is northeast of Afghanistan and Tajikistan. basically borders up against China and Russia, or China and Kazakhstan, excuse me.
That's amazing.
Wild
So
times.
they literally they rolled out this huge spread. I mean, this is a family that lives in, you know, this little one-room house that's, they told us was 500 years old, and just out of nowhere invited us in off this the dirt road to share lunch with us. And I'd never experienced anything like that before. It blew my mind, and it's something that will stick with me forever. Because
That's amazing.
Not the most, you know, luxurious, you know, crazy day.
I tell you what,
it was one of those things where it's just it changes the way you look at the world.
Right. Finding humanity anywhere in the world, finding, you know, just a group of folk, whether you speak the language or not, having that kind of bond with another human, it really opens up and transcends the dumbass borders that society is trying to place around folks and try to express this division. Like, nah, we're humans, right? You found humanity in Kyrgyzstan, right? You found this family that invited you in, right? They invited these random strangers into their home, fed them, gave them, you know, delicious tea with some horse milk in it, you know, showed you a gun because they knew you were an American and knew you'd love that shit.
Right.
Yeah.
And it changed your life, right? You now see the world completely different.
Exactly.
And I think that kind of shit's amazing. That's the kind of stuff I'm hoping to find. Maybe not those kind of specifics, but because I'm a much more extroverted, give me a city. But, you know, we're going to find folks in Lisbon who invite us in and treat us differently. This will be a little bit different for us because, you know, it's me and my wife.
Right.
So we're going together as opposed to doing it by myself. I might be more reluctant if I was by myself because there is that person like I'm alone.
Yeah.
But her and I can figure this out together. But Justin, it was wonderful talking to you, sir. It was great meeting you. We're going to definitely have to continue this conversation.
Absolutely.
At a later date. You're an amazing person, and I'm sorry that you have to be friends with Joe Beth. I understand.
It happens.
We all got to know somebody, I guess.
No, this has been great. I've had a lot of fun. No, I appreciate you guys having me on.
So if people want to follow your antics, especially when you get back out there on the road, where are the best places to connect with you, see pictures of chipmunks, whatever the hell else you got going on?
Right now, it's pretty much just Instagram, even though I really haven't posted in a year. So it's kind of dead in the water until I get traveling again. But there is a possibility of a YouTube channel if I decide that I want to try to make videos. So yeah, maybe I'll just be a reoccurring guest over here since you guys like to talk about nomadic stuff.
That's right. The bookmark for your life is what? Beer and a backpack on Instagram, spelled out, correct?
Correct. Yep.
On Instagram, beer and a backpack.
Correct.
And we'll put
beer and a backpack. Okay.
Yes.
And we'll put that in the episode information
description.
And
yeah,
as well.
We'll put links. We'll put links down below, as they say in the podcast world.
Yes. Look, there they are, right down there.
Awesome. Well, you know, this has been Big Sexy Digital Nomad.
And the Almost Psychic. Yep.
Take care. Thanks, guys, for listening. Be safe.
Until next time.
You can find us at hold on before you gotta remember you guys say this kind of shit.
That's right. We're new at this.
You can find us at Big Sexy Nomad on the Instagrams and the Gmails. You can also go to bigsexynomad.com. Check it out. Wherever you hear the podcast, like, subscribe, tell a friend, tell a bunch of friends. We're trying to blow this up right now. Once we get enough followers, we may put less pressure on you all to do that. But for right now, tell everybody you know and their mama.
That's right. That's right. So we have them find you on the socials. Where do they find you?
At Beer in a Backpack on Instagram right now, and then possibly in the future on YouTube as well.
And if you want to just find me, I'm at Who Is Big Sexy.
And I am at Psychic-ish.
All right, this has been Big Sexy Digital Nomad. Bye.
Until next time. Thanks for stopping by.